Good morning, Daily Huddle family. I am Tara Heaton, and I am actually the host for Wednesdays. But today I am standing in for the founders of the Daily Huddle, Giovanni Gonzalez and Tara Heaton. And it is my honor to talk a little bit leadership today because Fridays is about leadership. But before I do that, I want to stick with our tradition and start us off with a joke. And I thought I would talk about Fridays. Do y'all know why Friday always works out? Because it's a weekday. Oh boy. Roll the tape, Lizette.
I got it.
Take the minute there.
Friday works out.
Yeah. Good morning, beautiful Daily Huddle family. I'm so glad you're here on Friday where we talk about leadership. But before we do that and dig into our question of the day, which is, are you preparing for a leadership role? I want to go ahead and throw out a teaser and say, I hope not. I hope not. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But first, I want to ask a few questions from the folks that are here today. And you know what, Virtue, I was able to hear your voice a few minutes ago. So I'm going to ask you a question again this morning. I want to know, Virtue, tell me, please, where are you and how are you?
Okay, I was trying to mute. I'm right here with the Daily Huddle family today, and I'm doing fine today.
I love that. You are the way you say you are, and you say you are fine today. I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad you're here. Good morning again, Peter. I want to ask you a few questions this morning. I would like to know what time it is and what you are grateful for. You're on mute.
Okay.
There we go.
The time is now.
Love it.
And what am I grateful for? Oh my gosh. I'm grateful for just the ability to be able to share, to be here to share.
That's fantastic. I love that. And our final question, I'm going to go to Lizette for our final question and ask her to tell us who she will hug today. Lizette, who might you hug today?
I'm going to hug my best friend. Yes.
Oh, well, that is a lucky friend that you have. I'm glad to hear you're going to spend some time with your best friend. That is fantastic. I am going to kick us off this morning. Now that we're all here, we know what time it is, we know where we are. I'm going to talk about the question of the day, which is, are you preparing for a leadership role? And I said a few minutes, I'm going to kind of give the answer in the beginning, and then we're going to dive in. Leadership, I've seen it defined so many ways. And one thing that all of those definitions have in common is the word influence. The ability to influence behavior, thoughts, actions, progress, the list goes on. But leadership, essentially, when we boil it all down, is the ability to influence. And so the reason why I answer the question and say, I hope that you're not preparing for a leadership role is because you're already in a leadership role. We all are. Our words have power. The way that we communicate, what we say, and how we say it has power. And that's what we're going to focus on today. And I want to share a few examples about how the brain reacts to words. And then I'm going to actually share a video. So the first thing I'd like to do this morning is to ask us to think back. And if anybody has something they want to share in this question, just raise your hand. But we can also just do it. We can, just think about the answer to ourselves. But the question is this. Think back to a memory that you have where somebody said something to you that maybe they thought was insignificant, but you've never forgotten it. So just think for a few minutes, something someone said and it's just stuck with you over the years. I'm going to share one of my experiences. And then you tell me if you have one of your own. This, I'm going to think how many years ago this probably was. Let's see. Probably 15 years ago. I was in a corporate role with a big company, and my manager said these words to me. I don't remember the context, but I've never forgotten it. He said this exact quote. He said, "Tara, let's face it, you can be kind of awkward." It just haphazardly came out of his mouth. And I'm telling you what, for years, that stuck with me and gave me a sense of insecurity, like, I'm awkward. What does that mean? Why am I awkward? How am I? I mean, it really has affected me. That one little sentence, he probably doesn't remember it at all, but words have power. Fast forward to today, kind of interestingly, I take some pride in my awkwardness because I've studied the brain and communication, and I know why I actually tend to be awkward. And it is because I put so much effort and thought into my communication that sometimes it comes over as less than smooth and a little bit awkward. And I'm okay with that. I'd rather be that than scripted and insincere. But that's my experience. What's interesting is also, fast forward, most of you all are familiar with Brene Brown. She, in the end of her podcast, she always says this: stay awkward, brave, and kind. And I'm like, yes. So words have power, and those two words have affected me all these years. Many of you know that my daughter's brain has been damaged by seizures over the years. And one of the things that her brain gifts us is a very, very clear example of the way that our brain stores information and how it affects us. Really, essentially, her brain is no different than ours. She stores particular words, and some words she lets go. I cannot tell you how many times I have told my daughter to get a towel out before you get in the bathtub. She forgets, she forgets, she forgets, she forgets. And then she's in the bathtub calling for a towel. But she still remembers, she's 31 years old, she still remembers the hurtful words that were said to her in high school when her friends started to notice that her brain was changing. Words have power. So the message today is, no matter where you're traveling in the world, you don't have to be a parent, you don't have to be a boss. Your words have the ability to affect people. So that the message is, we're all in leadership roles, and to put care and thought into our words really can make a difference on this earth. And what I'd like to do now is share one of my favorite videos of all time that really, really highlights this message, and then we're going to talk about it. So let me see if I can make this happen. I looked around for a newer video, but I don't think anything touches the power of this gentleman. This is this gentleman won the Toastmaster competition in 2015 and still today. And I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I'm going to show a part of it. So here we go.
Have you ever wondered why nobody cares about global warming, even though it's a very serious issue? It could kill all of us. Because when you go home and you flip on the TV and you see a scientist trying to talk about global warming, it goes something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see from the graphs here, the statistics for 2014, it shows the water level is rising. This table shows that the monodioxide level on the third ozone layer is in a very alarming position. The message never get across. But most importantly, if you are a person who's a role model, if you're a person who's been admired, anything you say could be believed. Anything you utter could be taken as truth. My friend Nasser, he loved his father, idealized his father. He would do anything to make him happy. But his father was the kind of person who's not easy to impress. And year after year, Nasser tried, and his father was like, yeah. First year in college, Nasser got straight A's. And he thought to himself, this is it. This what will finally make my dad proud. He picked up the phone. He called his dad. Dad, I got straight A's. Are you proud? Please tell me you're proud, Father. Yeah, listen, son, I'll have to call you back. I'm busy. I'm busy was the single sentence that broke the camel's back. And he started drinking, doing drugs, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Nasser, why? Why are you throwing your life away? If the one person in the world that I care about the most doesn't care, then why should I? And one evening I got the phone call. Nasser's in the emergency room, drug overdose. I rushed to that hospital. I saw him on that bed, and I saw that machine go beep, beep, beep. And I saw doctors try to bring him back to life. Clear! 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 It's clear that a single word could have saved this life. Words have power. Words are power. Words could be your power. You can change a life, inspire a nation, and make this world a beautiful place. Isn't that what we all wanted? Isn't that why we are all in this hall? Your mouth can spit venom, or it can mend a broken soul. Ladies and gentlemen, let that be our goal. Can't you, sir?
False or misleading search
Oh,
results
no.
can negatively impact your life.
Hold
A bad
on.
online reputation.
There's an ad, but I
significant.
can't seem to stop. There we go. Sorry about that. If anybody is interested in that whole video, it's only at 10 minutes, but that was really the most powerful part. And I share it for us to get a reminder this weekend of how we might make our words really matter more. And the biggest way that I've been able to help people to do that is to stop using words that we throw out haphazardly, and we give more thought to the words that we say to people. I was fortunate enough to have a mother that always told me I could be anything I wanted to be, and I could do anything I wanted to do in life. And those words have stuck with me through the darkest of times. But I have to remember this. We've come in contact with people every day who are a little bit more like Nasser. Maybe they didn't have someone encouraging them. We could say something like good job to somebody, or just something like nice to see you, something that we don't put any thought in, and it's okay. But when we take the time to tell somebody why we think that they are extraordinary and the special gifts that we see in them, it truly can make a difference in someone's life more than we ever know. So I want to open it up and see if anybody has any thoughts or questions. You're certainly welcome to comment. I don't know if there's a question about this. I can also share a little bit more about how this works in our brain. Some people are intrigued by that and some people are not. But the science behind this, I will share a little bit since no questions are popping up right now. Let me share a little bit about the science behind this real quickly, and then Stan has a comment or a question. When we hear things, our brain reacts initially from our amygdala. That's where that fight or flight that we hear so often spoken of. And if the brain says this is of no value and of no interest at all, it will not store it. But our brain has the capacity to store an enormous amount of information. So that's why oftentimes we have memories that someone will say to us, do you remember? And at first you're like, no, no, no. And then eventually you're like, oh yeah, your brain tapped into it and pulled that memory out. That's one way that we store memories. But the ones that really spark our emotions, and those emotions could be either very painful emotions or very beautiful emotions. What the brain does is we store that information, but we also continue to tap into it. We continue to tap into it because of the emotions it sparked. So when we speak words that spark emotions, what we want to do is spark positive emotions and make the words unique and memorable, because someone will store that and refer to it, and it will encourage them to be the best version of themselves. So that's how the brain works. A sort of simple example of how the brain stores information and why we recall some of them over and over again. And some of them are in there and we just don't know. And then some of them were never stored at all because the brain said, this is not of value to me. So good morning, Stan. So glad to see you.
Good morning, Tara, and thank you so much for that, for everything. And that video was just beautiful. You know, sometimes I've had to make myself think about some things. So sometimes you see people that are acting in such a way,
Risk losing job opportunities or new customers.
are really presenting themselves in such a way that it's not easy for you to give a comment to them that's going to be something that sounds really positive, or something that's going to be, that's really going to build them up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But what we can do, and I've done this before and I want to do it more and more often, is that we can visualize anything in the world that we want to visualize. Right now, we could tell ourselves, man, I want to see the planet Saturn in my mind, and I want to sit on the rings. Right? I mean, we can go anywhere that we want to. We can see anything we want to. So when we see a person, and it might be difficult to say something really, really encouraging to, knowing that our words do have the power to kill and the power to bring life, right?
Right.
We can make ourselves see that person the way we think would be a good way that they could be. That we can make ourselves see that person. We can imagine that person just being better or being in their best way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could say to them and be absolutely honest. I see you as a beautiful person. I see you as such and such and such, because you did let yourself see it. And you're being perfectly honest.
That is a great lesson. Do you practice that, or does that?
I make it my business to do it when I am conscious of it. And that's why I said I want to do it more and more and more. Because most of the time we want to comment or make our words match the situation that we think we're perceiving.
Absolutely.
And they may not be encouraging. They may not be life-giving words.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can pause and see that image, since we can see any image we want to see of that person, then we can tell them, I see you being so and so and so,
Right.
And you're being honest.
I love that. And everyone has beauty and gifts about them. If
Exactly.
it's really up to us to uncover those, not to assume that they're not there. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Stan. It looks like Cece has some comment or question. Good morning, darling.
Yes, Stan, I love what you said, because I've been confronted with situations similar to that, and they weren't related to me, and they were just trying to get my attention at the same time as I was working. I said, I'll be with you in just one moment. Let me get back with you. Let me finish this. And this person really was insistent upon interrupting. And all I had to say was, I see something great in you. Can you let me get back to you while I do this? Because I want to, honor my word. And I have to learn how to practice that, because he kept coming. And then eventually I just asked him to just remove himself from the area. And I could have said, I see so much greatness in you. And that would have comforted him, maybe have encouraged him to do something greater than what he was doing with me at that moment. So it's just a learning situation for me. And thank you so much, Stan, for sharing. And thank you for the topic. And I pass.
Thank you, Cece. That is a powerful reminder of something that I think we forget to know that is true. And it is this: there is almost nothing we would rather hear from someone else than the words, I believe in you. And when we back up the words, I believe in you, with something concrete as to why we believe in that person, which means share a memory we have about them that showed their gifts and their abilities, it really does improve people's confidence and their feeling of self-worth and empowerment. And I don't know what a better gift there is on this earth. So thank you so much for sharing that, Cece. Rashida, good morning.
Good morning, my Daily Huddle family. This is Rashida at the airport of Miami. And when I heard you start the topic, I went back and I went back and I went back in my memories. And
Good.
one of the things I remember very vividly, I was like 4.5-year-old, 5 years old. And I remember my grandpapa used to love to make this fire circle and teaching each one of us in the circle. And he used to say to us, he says, never, ever make anyone think you cannot do something, because he says, I have paved the road for you all guys. And until today, I still hear him saying, I have paved the road for you all guys. So for me, I can do anything I put my mind to. And thank goodness for my grandpapa, I still doing what I put in my mind. And I just go and I'm teaching this to my grandkids. So trust me, those words is powerful. And we have to be careful what we say with this mouth. We have to be very careful what we use this tongue to say to somebody. Thank you so much for the topic. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That is a perfect example of how the memory works and the power of words, a beautiful example. And as a matter of fact, you modeled something else. And then I'm probably just going to share my final story with you. You modeled something else with that memory, Rashida, and that is this, that when we say something to somebody, that, would you say the quote one more time from your father?
My grandpapa will say, no, yes, my grandpapa will say, no matter what you do or what you expect in life, you got to put your mind to it. And he said, no, remember, he said that when you put your mind to something, and what he was confirming and affirming that he already paved the road for us, and he making sure that we don't underestimate what we put our mind to. We put our mind to stuff, and we just have to get it done. And this is what I'm doing right now. I want to get something done. I put my mind to it, and I get it done. No one can tell me that I cannot do it, because I was fed from young kid that I can do anything when I put my mind to it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, what a beautiful gift. So the piece of that I was really looking forward to make my point is that your grandfather said, I paved the road for you. Those few words are specific and unique, and they don't need a lot more. And that's why stopping and really putting thought into what we say before we say it gives us the power to make a statement like your grandfather said, which was, I paved the road for you, which needs very little else around it. So I want to encourage you also, when you think of saying something to someone that's powerful like that, don't think you have to keep going on and on about it. That dilutes it, that diminishes the message, and that diminishes the ability to remember those words. So I'm going to share with you one final story that really highlights this message today. You know, one of the things that I love about the Daily Huddle family is people come on here from all parts of the world with all different colors of skin. And that, since I was a little girl, has just delighted my soul. I'm so grateful for that experience. Well, about, 3 years ago, I bought a little Cadillac XT4, which is the small SUV. And I ran into a friend And she saw my new vehicle and she said, oh, I'm looking for a new vehicle. And she looked at it and she kind of looked around. And then we walked away from the car and she said, my husband suggested that I look at Cadillacs, but I told him no, Cadillacs are for Black people. I was floored that something like that.
That many times.
Well, I didn't give it as much thought as I have since I had lunch with a friend of mine who was an African-American man a few weeks later. And I told him about this experience. And the first thing he said was, he told me where my friend could go, but I won't say that on the Daily Huddle. And then he told me something else. He said, and your friend is right. And he said, do you know why Black people drive Cadillacs, Tara? And I said, no, I have no idea. And he said, and I researched this, I found it, and he was 100% right. Back in the 1930s, only white men could buy luxury cars. So like Cadillac and whatever else was out there at the time, they would only sell to white people. So if a man of color, man or woman of color, wanted to buy a luxury vehicle, they had to give money to a white man for him to go buy the car. Well, in the 30s, during the Depression, when car dealerships were struggling, Cadillac was the very first luxury brand to say, we're going to give loans to people of color. And that's the history of why African Americans have always appreciated. That was the beginning of the appreciation for African Americans and Cadillac. So now I love my Cadillac more than ever, knowing that history of the company. But I share this story because this was years ago, and I don't think I'll ever remember someone saying Cadillacs are for Black people. And then my telling that to a friend who has brown skin and how hurtful it was to him. Words have power. And I celebrate the fact that we can use positive words to change lives. So I want to thank you all for being here with me this morning. And I hope we'll remember through the weekend to choose our words carefully so that they lift people up, they don't tear them down, so that they're very, very unique and genuine to help others to live in a better world. I'm going to finish today with our tenets from the Daily Huddle and wish you all an amazing weekend. Lead with love. It just wipes away so many insecurities and so many fears. Lead with love and give. Remember to give. Give of your heart, give of your time, give of your talents. It comes back to you tenfold. It will energize you. And remember too, to let yourself laugh. Don't take life too seriously. Let your head go back and your endorphins fly. Take time to laugh. And take care of yourself. That means to get your sleep so that your body can repair. Put mostly plants into your body. Try to reduce your stress. And that will give you the energy and the spirit you need to keep your body moving, which will keep this ball rolling. We'll see you Monday on the Daily Huddle. Much love to you all.
Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Take care, Master.
One love, guys. One love.
Family. One love.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Excellent job. Appreciate you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Love you all.
Thanks.